In this demonstration of GeoTime, we're going to take a look at a suspicious ship off the coast of California. Through visual analysis, we hope that we can extract some of the different activities and events that have taken place over a period of a month's time in hopes that we can provide some actionable intelligence on where this ship may potentially end up in the future. In taking a look at the data that we've been able to retrieve from the ship's AIS transponder, we can see that the ship was stationed at a small island just off the coast of California and made several trips out to sea during the period of a month. What this does not reveal is the different patterns or behaviors of this vessel, which will help us understand any potential illicit activity that the ship may have been engaged in. Within GeoTime, we have the ability to display time as the third axis or the third dimension. In this case, you can see that time is displayed here on the vertical. What this allows us to do is to view the complete picture of all events that have taken place over the period of time of my data. In this case, we have a month's worth of data on this suspicious ship, starting with early January here at the top, going down to the end of January, starting in February here at the end of the data, which means that events that are higher up have taken place earlier on. This allows us to start to see patterns and trends that can emerge. My data is also mapped to a geographical location. These gray lines, or temporal axes, are mapping the different event points down directly onto the map. Let's start to take a look at some of the ship's activities. For this, I'm going to go into the first time he sets out to sea. By working with my time slider here, I can adjust the segment of time that we're viewing within the real-time environment. The interactive viewer allows me to visualize the activities of this ship over a period of several hours. In this case, we're taking a look at approximately 3 days worth of data. I'm going to turn off the temporal axis, which will allow us to focus more on the events. We can see here that he set out to sea just before Friday. Let's take a closer look at what he was doing out at sea. It looks like the ship started to zigzag back and forth in the water and then started to return late Friday afternoon. Then he becomes stationary for a period of time before we lose the signal. Here you can see that there's a gap in the data that we have acquired from their AIS system. Now, potentially this could be where the system malfunctioned or the system was disabled. Either way, this is relevant data that we want to be able to communicate to our investigator. So we're going to call this out with an outline annotation. Annotations allow us to call attention to points of our data that are relevant to the investigation. I'm also going to start a report here. Reporting tool allows me to capture different intelligence, information, or evidence within my data. Here I'm going to capture the gap in my data so that anyone reviewing my report will be able to see that this is a potential area of suspicious activity where we don't know where the ship may have been during a period of approximately 12 hours. Within the reporting tool, we can capture bookmarks or screenshots that will be related to the findings. By clicking back on this, you can see that I'll bring up the relevant screenshot or visual information that's associated with my reporting notes. This allows anyone reviewing my report to see the same visual display as when I was performing my analysis. Let's continue forward on the data here, taking a look at the ship's activities. Here he returns back to port and is stationary for a period of about a week. And here we can see that he makes another voyage out to sea. This one's interesting in that the ship stays out at sea overnight. Let's take a look at this event more closely. In order for us to get a more precise mapping of time, we can pull up the calendar view. Now that we're viewing the data in calendar mode, you can see that we have a precise mapping of these different event points to time. Here we can see precisely when the ship started to anchor, which was roughly 6 o'clock on Monday evening, and you can see he stays anchored overnight. What we're interested in is this pattern of activity that took place just before he anchored. I'm going to select this data and zoom in. Here we can see this zigzag pattern, which could denote that the ship was searching for an object within the ocean there, or perhaps they were looking to dock with another vessel. This is really interesting information for us as it shows a definite zigzag pattern. So we want to be able to call this out as well. Here I'm going to use the callout function to capture this pattern. This essentially creates a sticky note that is applied to my data so that anyone else who's reviewing this can see that I've called out here that this is a zigzag pattern. I may also want to put this in my report so that anyone reviewing the report will also be viewing the zigzag pattern that we found within the data. The importance of being able to visually call out this information and then to quickly report that is that it really cuts down on the time and effort it takes for us to be able to communicate the different elements and intelligence that we found within this data. I'm not having to switch between multiple applications in order for us to type up and create this report, which I will use to communicate my findings to the investigative bodies at work here. Finally, we're going to take a look at all the data together, and we're going to use what's called the charting tool. Now, the charting tool is very interesting in this case, as it allows us to go through and start segmenting or color coding our data based on different kind of filters. So in this case, we could take a look at the size of these different event points, which denote the speed of the ship. Here you can see when the speed is 0 to 0.5, which is the slowest speed, virtually stationary. This is all when the ship's at port. Here when it starts to get more green and yellow colored, you can see it's where the ship is accelerating and he's gone much faster. Another way we can take a look at the data is by taking a look at the day of the week. Now the day of the week will tell us which day this event point has taken place. So for every event point that's taken place on Monday, you're going to see purple as the coloring for that. Now visually we can see right away which one of the days of the week that the ship is most likely to travel, which would be the light blue colored event points here, which correspond to Tuesday. So this is also interesting for us because we can then communicate this on as actionable intelligence for potentially having an observation operation set up around this ship. The most likely day that they will spot the ship heading out to sea is Tuesday. So we're going to capture this. And we are going to, again, create a bookmark or a screenshot of this. Now I've got my three different pieces of data or evidence within my report, and I can go through and I can start clicking on these if I was reviewing with an investigator, taking a look at the different relevant points in the data that we've located. I can also then export this report as an HTML file, which allows me to then send that off to the investigator for further review.